then you don't know what it's going to be like when they do it. So you best, if you don't defend it, you can't expect anybody else to do it for you. So when I was growing up, I expected that I was going to have to go to the military one day. You know, I grew up with that expectation. Wasn't necessarily the case, but I grew up with that expectation that one day I was going to go to the military. Seemed like I was growing up with a concept about every 10 years we had a war, so it's going to hit everybody sooner or later. That's not the case either, but that's what I grew up with. You know. So I expected to go to go to the, and I felt that it was my duty to do so. I never had any qualms about going to the military. At the time I went was inconvenient, but yeah, I know when you get drafted, you were supposed to go, and I didn't like the option of running to Canada or something like that. I didn't like the option there. In fact, I never considered that.
So your tour was shorter than most of the other ones. What happened to bring you back?
Malaria fever. I detected the malaria fever while I was over there, and it was called Blackwater malaria. It was a new strand. They had no cure for it, so that when you detected, they X you out of there and trying to find a cure. Most time they brought you back to Walter Reed Hospital. That's why I came back. As a result, I spent about another 5.5 months in the service, dealing with that, trying to find a cure and all that stuff. Eventually, evidently they did, and I'm still here.
Evidently, right?
Yeah.
What is your view about, or what is your memory about the months you are there? Are you proud that you served?
Oh yes, I am. I am proud. It's I always, when I talk to other veterans about it, we're usually in agreement. It's an experience I wouldn't trade for anything, but I wouldn't want to do it again.
You know, there's a lot of Vietnam vets that came back because of the response they got and hid away the fact that they were a vet. And it took them really up until the last several years, recent years, to even acknowledge that they were a vet. And maybe because of the current war, maybe because of whatever. Did you do kind of the similar action? Did you hide the fact you were a vet originally?
No, never did. I never did hide the fact that I was upset with the way that veterans organizations and quite frankly the military itself viewed Vietnam veterans because of public opinion. I thought it had a lot to do with public opinion about the whole war, which we had nothing to do with. We just only thing we did was serve, and public opinion put a bad taste on the Vietnam War, and as a result, when they came home, my biggest gripe was the veterans organization like the American Legion, the VFW, and stuff like that. They didn't bother to go to the airport to meet them. The hecklers did, but they didn't even bother to go. And I think it had a lot to do with they didn't want to deal with the hecklers, you know. And that didn't seem like much of a veteran to me at the time. And of course, I was young then, and I looked at things different, and I'm more volatile than I am now, you know what I mean? And so I didn't bother. I didn't wait to tell them when I come in contact with what I thought about how they acted. But I probably did different now if I did, because, you know, cool mannerism is better than confrontation anyway. So, but it took me a while to learn that, you know. But that was my biggest gripe when it come back. The general public feeling not just so much toward the Vietnam War, but it also carried over to the Vietnam veteran. People used to tell you, say, well, you must have been crazy to go. Well, it's hard to stay away from a confrontation there, you know what I mean? But I never did like inside the jailhouses or prisons and things like that, so I learned how to deal with that too. I'd speak my mind, but I wouldn't start a confrontation over it, you know what I mean? But I'd speak my mind. I don't know what I thought. I don't know what I thought about them, you know what I mean? But now, I think I would have did it different. I would have walked away from most situations, let them have it what they wanted, you know what I mean? But I'd give them a piece of my mind. They said anything, but that's about all. I try to stay away from confrontations.
What was it like when you landed at the airport? You mentioned the hecklers. What was it like?
Well, see, mine was, I came back on a medevac plane.
Oh yeah.
And I went all the way back to the Philippines, Germany, Okinawa, and then I came into San Francisco. Well, the thing that, see, I didn't know the extent of the hecklers and stuff because that really didn't start until the war started. And when the war started, our company, in '65, our company, officially we went there, you know, we always had advisors over there. Our company went advanced party, so we were the first to go. So I wasn't here when all the heckling and stuff first started. I heard about Kent State, you know, when some of them got shot down there by I believe it was National Guard members or something like that. Like you heard about that, but you get the paper a month later. You know what I'm trying to say? So I really didn't know the extent of it. But when they took us off the plane, when you sitting up enough, when they take you off the plane, they always take you off as a stretcher, on the stretcher. Because I guess they can handle it better if everybody's on the stretcher. But not only did they put us on the stretcher, they kind of lashed us down to the stretcher. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't like that at all. I never had like being confined, nothing, you know what I'm saying? But while I was laying there, they was wrapping you up pretty soon. All of a sudden, they just lashed your arm down and said, "What's going on?" I said, "We got orders to do this." And when you get outside, when you got the hecklers outside the gate, I'm laying on the stretcher, and I can't do nothing. Well, I have never in my whole life had trouble with my blood pressure, but it went up there. When I got inside, they took my blood pressure. It was way out of whack. And it's because I was highly upset with the heckler. I was highly upset with people strapping me down. So that was the first encounter I had with them. And of course, being in the hospital for the next 5 months, or the first couple of months, you only found out what you saw on TV or what you read in the newspaper because you didn't get outside the hospital. Because they didn't know because it's fortunately that they didn't know if this thing was contagious or not. Getting into the fall of the year, close to winter time, they didn't have to worry with mosquitoes then. But they was wondering what they was going to do come spring, because this stuff might be contagious, you know what I mean? If a mosquito bite us, it might be spread. They didn't know what it was. They don't I can come to the conclusion that wasn't a problem, but they didn't know then. So we didn't get a chance to get outside much. And eventually we got so we could go out on the weekends out in town. That was kind of nice, good to get out. You know, you're in the hospital 5 days a week. And you look forward to the weekend. You can go do what you pretty much please and stuff like that. So that was kind of nice, but wasn't ideal, but it's better than, you know, nothing. But that was my problem with the hecklers. The position I was in when I had to face it. And my blood pressure went considerable. I had never had trouble with my blood pressure before. Not that I know of anyway. When I was out in the jungle, it might have went up there too. Wasn't nobody checking it.
So did you do most of your time in Vietnam in the jungles or in the rice paddies?
Jungle, see, in the central highland, that's all it is. Jungle and rice paddies. So you either in the jungle, you're in the rice paddy, or you in the village. And you don't want to hang in the village too long. You don't know everybody there. We get past yes, we could go there. I chose not to. I chose not to, knowing the conditions in the village, what could be, and that was known he had come in the village. Well, you know they're there once you give them, no, we watch them, seeing what they're going to do. Well, they never did identify him to us, so we didn't know him. So I chose not to go. I know when I went there, I had a year to do, and I was going to do a year at that time in those pup tents and in those foxholes, and when I finished, I was going to go home. Well, that wasn't realistic, but that's what I had made up my mind I was going to do, because, well, they had all kinds of, should I say, diseases and social diseases and things like that. And they even had some that they didn't even allow you to come back to the States with. I wasn't going to get none of that, because I wasn't going to miss my trip home, you know what I'm trying to say. So I was going to stay in the middle. I didn't have to stay over there for that very long, so that wasn't a real problem. I had to stay a whole year. I might have looked at things a little different. But that was the thing that was most concerned with me. My general health was always my greatest concern. Like I didn't eat the local food or stuff like, you go down to the market, I didn't eat the local foods or anything like that, because anything, you never know what you was eating. That's for so I stayed to whatever the Army fed me. That's what I ate. Whatever medicine they gave me, that's what I took. I didn't drink none of the brew they had in the jungle and none of that stuff, because I was determined that what I didn't know about, I wasn't going to indulge in. Because my goal was to do my age, come home, get out, and go back to college.
So what were your main duties while you were over there in the 111 MOS? What were your main duties?
I was what you call, within the squad I was in. I was in the squad. I was called a team leader, and I was a team leader of what they call the weapons squad. I was trained in weapons, in light weapons, that light weapon is something above the rifle. And so normally you're talking about the sidearm and the recorder's rifle, sometimes they call it rocket launcher, and the machine gun, thing like that. That's what I was trained in. So my duty was to lead the weapons squad. That was my duty. Mm-hmm.
So how many times do you know of that you and your unit may have engaged in actual combat with the VCs?
I think I counted about 8 times. 8 times where we got, well, 5 was a chain, or we ran into someone and ran into them out in the open out there, and there was a couple of times we ran into them. There was no confrontation because they would run off, and most of the time they wanted prisoners rather than bodies, and so we would try to capture, but you couldn't catch them and run into that jungle, something like that. We captured some prisoners, but not like that. We did.
Did you ever lose any of your men?
Huh?
Did you ever lose any of your men?
Not in fortunately, in the months we lived there, in the months we were there, we didn't lose anybody in our company. After I left, I heard about that, and I don't heard about anybody we lost, but I heard that 2 or 3 guys got wounded. But I don't know anybody in my company that we lost. And in fact, we got some guys wounded, but we never to the point that they had to leave the field. I picked up a little strap in my knees, and I think I picked up the last piece just about 10, 12 years ago. I picked up the last piece of it out of my knees. You know how to get rising to the surface. But the Army never even acknowledged I had that, because I didn't have to come in from the field. You know what I'm saying? And so.
How'd you get that?
Well, I got too close to our own artillery. That's how I got that. Well, they never admitted that it was ours, but didn't nobody have that kind of stuff. We had, they admitted they had mortars, but they didn't